Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, thank you for popping by. I'm Katie and today I'm using BRUSHO. So just before I get started with the BRUSHOs, I have masked out the area I don't want any colour to go on first, because this stuff, you only have to think about this stuff being somewhere and it is. So what are BRUSHOs? Well, they are pots of powdered pigment. I believe they're salt based and they will last you forever. And you can use them on a variety of things, and today I'm using them like a watercolour. But I've also used them to dye paper, dye fabrics, all sorts of stuff. Let me know in the comments if any of you guys have tried BRUSHOs and what you thought on them. I'd like to hear any other ways that you've applied them. So just to start off with, I dampen the paper, and then what I'll do is sprinkle some of the powders onto there, and you'll see they go a little bit crazy. There was also a tiny little speck on the page, and that just goes to show how much can go a long way. Because I want the crystals to fully dissolve, I do go over it with a spray of water, and it's literally just water and BRUSHOs here. I've not added anything else to it, and as you can see they are incredibly pigmented. A little goes a long way. So why have I decided to use BRUSHOs? Well, one of my subscribers, ARTEMYSTIK, and I'll leave a link to her channel, you should go check it out. She suggested on the back of one of my videos that she'd like to see me try BRUSHO, and I was like, I use BRUSHO anyway. You'll have to excuse how bad my voice is at the moment. I do believe there might be a cold brewing, so I'm sorry if my voice sounds rubbish. That's because it does. So back to it, and yes, I said yes, I've got BRUSHOs in. Now I don't normally use them to paint with. I have used them to paint with in the past, but I have other ways of applying them and using them. And I'll mix them into spray bottles. I've mixed them into acrylic paints before and tinted white paints to create customizable colours. And I've used them to dye fabrics. They are so versatile. And as I've demonstrated, a tiny bit goes such a long way, such a long way. They are really good value. Over here in the UK, I think I paid about £2 in the region of that, and some of these pots I have had for about 7 years and they're nowhere near being emptied. So they are a great investment. However, they do have flaws in my opinion. So I'm using these on watercolour paper and I'm treating them like a watercolour, and again the vibrancy is amazing, but if you re-dampen the paper it comes back to life. So that binder, it will stain the paper, but if there's anything beyond what will stain the paper, it'll bleed into where you've worked next, and this is where it gets a bit tricky on this picture. Just to add, I used the Van Gogh metallic colour shift watercolours just for those 3 circles in the background. I just wanted there to be a different texture on there. So whilst I'm doing this, you can see that I know I wasn't great at masking it, so any residual BRUSHO that came through has now been reactivated, so I am not quite getting the true colours that I wanted there, but for now I'm not really seeing that as a negative. It's just the nature of it, and some materials you just have to accept it. And I absolutely love how these blend, and with them reactivating as well, you can still create some really nice effects, even if you just put the clear water on top of dried painted areas, because it splits the pigments. You're left with really nice textures. And textures are what I really like best about BRUSHOs and the different ones you can achieve. For the background, I know I'm backtracking a little here, but I used a heat gun to speed up the drying process, and because I don't know the full science behind this, I'm only speculating, but because they are salt based, they dry a little differently to how they would if I was blasting dry the watercolours. And I think that is down to the fact, again, comparing to watercolours, that there's no gum arabic in there and it doesn't have that stickiness. And again, I think that's why they reactivate so easily. And another way I like to utilise this, because they are little crystals, is by sprinkling it onto the damp surface and then keep blasting it with a mister bottle, because I don't like having them particles loose on the page. Once it's dry, if there's any chunks of brusho on there, then that sounds a bit dramatic, but even if there's like the tiniest speck, it's really bad when you don't realise it's there and you smudge it across your work and it stains your paper. So I always like to make sure it's completely dissolved. And I suppose it's a little similar to using salt on a area of water, like a heavily dissolved watercoloured background, just to get them textures. It kind of almost adds the same effect, but it's the pigment and not just salt bringing out them textures. However, because I added a lot of mist to it, it completely dissolved. I know I'm backtracking a little bit there. Another way to add good texture, again this is down to how easy it reactivates, is just by waiting for your surface to dry and then adding just clean water on the top. It reactivates, it splits the pigments and it pushes it out towards the sides of the dampened area, and that's really nice to add texture. I use that on the mermaid scales, and I just like doing that. I think it's a nice way to just add something a little more to it. And it's quite, in my opinion anyway, it's quite an unpredictable material just because of how easy it reacts, and that is why I like using them. But perhaps just not to paint with. Although I might just do a couple more just to sort of show you guys a bit more about Brusho. And again, as soon as I get a good setup at my other studio, I will delve into that. So just a quick roundup. I outlined it with a liner pen and used the gel pen in there, and we have the finished piece right before your eyes. I just want to say thank you for watching. I hope you found this video useful and you've enjoyed it, more importantly. If you have, don't forget to hit that like button, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you, bye!